Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. It's wild what some guests think they can get away with, right? Here's the story of a woman who turned a simple hotel stay into a chaotic spectacle, complete with late checkouts, endless excuses, and a full-on Karen meltdown that ended with the police getting involved. But before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button, smash the like if you enjoy the content, and ring that notification bell so you never miss a juicy story. We got the cops called on us. It worked out for her exactly as you might suspect. So for the past few days, we've had this girl staying with us. Saturday morning, she came down to extend her reservation, saying she wanted to stay longer. Okay, cool. But she wanted to book through the brand because of some point deal they had or something. Cool, sounds good. At this point, it was rapidly approaching checkout time. She comes back down to the desk after checkout time, telling me she's having issues with the app and the website and how it won't load the screen she needs to book on. This entire time, her speech has been rapid and jumbled, but I get that way sometimes too when I'm anxious or nervous about something, so I didn't really sweat it at first. Finally, at nearly noon, I convinced her to pay for one night, suggesting she try again later to book the remainder of the night she needed through them. She joked about how this is what happens when you wait till the last minute. Yep. So the next morning, same business. She finally got the next night reserved by 11:30. The owner went up to talk to her, after trying to call the room and getting a busy signal, and explained to her that we need payment by 11 and further late payments would incur a $25 late payment fee. This morning I got a call from her around 9:30 asking for a late checkout. I suspected this was a ploy to get away with paying late again, so I told her we didn't have a late checkout available. She asked if this meant she had to wait for her ride outside, and I told her, unfortunately, yes. Her speech is slurred and almost impossible to understand. Through the conversation, I had to ask her to repeat herself numerous times. 11 a.m. rolls around, and the head housekeeper's going around checking rooms, finds the woman still in her room. The woman tells her she has a late checkout for 12. The head housekeeper comes down and tells me this. After discussing it with the owner, he and I decide we'll honor the late checkout but add her to the DNR, do not rent for you lurkers, going forward. As I predicted, at 11:30 she called down to say she was staying, but her dad was going to pay for the room over the phone through the brand. I explained we don't take payments over the phone, he would have to come here to pay. She assured me he was paying on the phone. After some back and forth where she wasn't making any sense, she decided she'd just come down to the desk. I talked to the boss, asked how he wanted to play it. Do we let her extend and keep an eye on her, or just end this now? He decided she wasn't worth the trouble, told me to tell her we couldn't extend the room. She came down to the desk, and I explained to her that due to the repeated late payments, the owner had decided she couldn't rent from us anymore. She started to get argumentative and talking over me. Since this conversation was being done through the night window, rather than try to crowd in with me, the owner stepped out the front door a good 6 feet away from her. He told her what I'd told her, reminding her that he'd told her the day before that she had to start paying on time. He was polite but authoritative. She responded by going full Karen, yelling at him for talking to her that way, demanding his business card and name, and just generally having a tantrum. Once she escalated, he dropped all pretenses of politeness and dished it right back, telling her she had until noon to get her crap and get off his property. Once she left to go back to her room, he went right to his office to file a complaint against her with the brand to beat her to the punch. We then observed her on the camera pacing around on the walkway in front of her room, chatting on the phone instead of packing. She was under a camera with a microphone, so we heard her telling whoever that she was going to be contacting corporate. 12 rolls around, and she's still just standing outside her room. My boss goes up to deal with her and asks for me to escort him and film the interaction on my phone so that if she tries to lie about him, we have a witness as well as video proof that she's lying. We got up there, and she was still just hanging around. Her key had quit working at 11:40, and she decided she'd just stand there instead of coming to the desk to fix it. He let her into the room and told her to pack her crap. She had a lot of crap. She continued to argue with him. They went back and forth while he stood against the door to keep it open, and I stood across from the doorway to film. She continued to make no attempt to start packing, and then decided that she was going to call the police on us because she felt unsafe, and we were like, yeah, okay, cool. Save us the trouble of doing so. While she still had the 911 operator on the line, she started trying to force the door closed, and for a moment it seemed like the situation might turn violent. But she gave up after a moment, and I saw her arm extended for the first time and noticed something pretty telling: track marks. I called her out. "Hey, what are those marks on your arm?" She yelled at me, saying she had cancer and tumors, and the marks were from blood transfusions. I would really question the skill of nurses who left my arm looking like hers. Just saying. I asked her why she lied to the head housekeeper, saying she got a late checkout. She said she didn't. I asked if she was calling the head housekeeper a liar, and she didn't answer. I asked if she knew she wasn't getting a late checkout, why was she still in the room well after checkout time? And again, she didn't answer, going back to insulting my boss instead. The cop showed up, and she told him what terrible people we were. We told him we just wanted her gone. The cop told her the solution to the problem at hand was for her to pack and leave. She kind of stared at him for a moment, apparently having expected some other outcome. Again, she had to be told a few times to start packing. She tried to close the door again, and both the cop and my boss insisted again it stay open. This clearly frustrated her, but she relented and slowly started to pack up her room. As you might imagine, watching someone slowly pack a messy hotel room is pretty boring, so the cop, my boss, and I started chatting a bit. The cop asked about a possum that scared the crap out of one of our night guys the other day, and we laughed about that. We told him about the effing goose that crapped in the vending area. The girl seemed pretty annoyed at no longer being the center of attention and made some snide remarks, but we ignored her. The conversation turned to the state of downtown and how all the boarded-up windows make it seem like a foreign country. The girl started shouting at my boss, asking him why he was even here. He should go back to his country. His parents are from India. He and I laughed because this isn't the first time someone's told him to go back to his country. He informed her he's from New Jersey, and then we went back to ignoring her comments. I asked him why she didn't tell me to go back to my country. Do you think she's racist? We had a chuckle about that. When she needed attention again, she started yelling at the boss again, and he told her to shut up and pack. She told him to get out of her face from like 7 feet away, and her face was definitely not that big. The cop pointed this out in a few words. It seemed like she might take a while, and the cop was there, so he didn't feel like he needed a witness anymore, so the boss sent me back down to the desk. The cop had me fill out her information on the trespass form. I told the head housekeeper about what had happened, and we had a good laugh about how she'd called the police on us and told the boss to go back to his country. Because of the last time it happened, it's kind of a running joke. The other two housekeepers were having lunch, basically just waiting for the girl to get out since hers was the last room. If I were your boss, I'd be tempted to print a go back to your home country reward card, 10 stamps for a free ice cream. Then I'd pre-stamp it 9 times, so the next time someone says the phrase, I can pull it out and say, did you just say go back to your home country? Hot damn, you just won me a free ice cream. And our next story. Neighbor tries to steal my land, ends up paying big. My neighbor expanded his driveway onto my property along with new landscaping. He took up about 15 by 800 feet, a substantial chunk of land. I just moved in and didn't know exactly where the property line was, and I think he knew this and took advantage of it. A couple of years after he did it, I was planning some work and figured out all of his new stuff was on my land. Got a survey to confirm and talked to him about it. He apologized and said he'd fix it. He showed up a week later with paperwork for me to sign that would have transferred ownership of the land to him for free. I told him I wasn't interested in giving away my land, but I would be willing to sell it to him for $5,000. He lost his crap and said, if you're going to be like that, then I'll just take it by eminent domain. Dumb F didn't even know what he was talking about. So I sent him a certified letter demanding he remove his improvements and restore my land to the native habitat it was before he messed with it. He hired a lawyer who tried to talk me into giving him the land because his wife died recently, and he tried to help some people as a good Samaritan, and they died too. And he's just so distraught, and he's really a good person, and it'd really help him if you just let this go. No, F that a-hole. I was willing to let it go until he threatened to steal my property. Now I'm not. He tried to sell the house. I called the listing agent and told them about the property line, and the for sale sign was gone the next day. The house sat vacant for a year while he played every game he could think of. I just ignored him and went about my life. Eventually, I accepted $15K for about 5 feet of the land so he could sell the house with the driveway where it was, and I kept all of the landscaping improvements on my side. He'd once bragged to me that the house, a very nice 4,800 square foot home, was one of 6 that he owned. He only lived in it a few months out of the year. He was far wealthier than me, so I didn't feel bad for him at all. Wow, what an a-hole. Literally, there's no reason for you to feel bad at all. I'm glad you got some money out of it, and the eminent domain comment has me in stitches. And our last story. Nope, dear neighbor, the pool is mine. Buying our first home felt like a dream come true. At 32, my wife, who's 33, and I finally moved into a place we loved and planned to spend the rest of our lives in. The highlight? A beautiful pool. Something I'd always wanted but never thought I'd have. However, our excitement was soon dampened by our next-door neighbors. Their kids kept hopping our fence and using our pool. Each time I'd ask them to leave, and I eventually spoke to their parents about it. They explained that the elderly couple who sold us the house used to let their kids use the pool in exchange for cleaning it. While that arrangement worked for the previous owners, I made it clear that my wife and I were not comfortable with it. We didn't know the kids well enough, and the thought of them getting hurt on our property worried us. Parents didn't take it well. They insisted their kids wouldn't get hurt and asked if they could use the pool whenever we weren't around because it's getting hotter now and they're just kids. My patience wore thin, and I suggested they get their own pool. I reiterated that our pool was off limits. Despite my clear boundaries, the kids kept sneaking in, and the parents started giving me dirty looks whenever they saw me. To reinforce the message, I put up a sign stating the pool was private and could only be used with permission. One afternoon, I came home to find the kids in the pool again. This time, I decided to involve the authorities. I called the non-emergency police line and explained the situation. The officer who arrived was understanding and spoke with the neighbors, warning them about trespassing and the legal implications of ignoring property boundaries. That evening, the neighbors came over, not to apologize, but to complain about the police visit. I stood firm and reiterated my concerns about safety and liability. They grumbled, but seemed to understand the seriousness of the situation. Over the next few weeks, things improved. The kids stopped sneaking into our pool, and while the parents' looks didn't warm up, they at least respected our property. My wife and I could finally enjoy our pool in peace, and the stress of dealing with our entitled neighbors gradually faded. We made sure to secure our fence better and even added a few more private property signs just in case. It wasn't the warm welcome we'd hoped for, but we were determined to enjoy our new home and the life we'd worked so hard to build. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.